on, viewers, let's also tell you that Spain has decided not to participate in the Board of Peace initiative launched by US President. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez confirmed the decision, stating that it aligns with Spain's belief in multilateralism and the United Nations system.
Tras haberlo consultado con muchos de los países, tras haberlo meditado durante bastantes semanas, hoy he querido trasladar a los colegas del Consejo Europeo el que el Gobierno de España ha decidido no participar a la llamada Junta de Paz. Agradecemos la invitación, pero declinamos el participar en esa junta propuesta por la administración estadounidense. Esta junta está fuera del marco de Naciones Unidas y, por cierto, no ha incluido a la autoridad palestina. El futuro de Gaza y también de Cisjordania, no nos olvidemos, el futuro en su conjunto de Palestina debe dirimirlo los palestinos. Y también el futuro de su coexistencia pacífica y segura con Israel deben dirimirlo fundamentalmente Israel y Palestina en un proceso dialogado que implemente la solución de los dos estados.
Notably, many allies, including Canada, Britain and most European Union countries, were also absent from the launch, which took place at the World Economic Forum in Davos. All right, I request Dr. Chadha to join me back in the discussion here. Dr. Chadha, clearly, once again, like most other Western European allies or the traditional Western European allies now of the United States, Spain has also picked up this stance of not joining the Board of Peace. Now, many are concerned about the fact that this board is probably going to challenge the United States, the United Nations. But do you think that's really going to be the case going forward, with only 35 countries having committed to this board?
Right. I mean, on the one hand, I do not see that ever being that big of a challenge, just if you look at it by size, because most of US's own traditional partners and allies, I mean, Canada is not on board, European Union is not on board. Other countries are either thinking about it or probably already planning to abandon the plan altogether, because this is very concentrated in terms of, the leadership and the structures, the fact that there's a membership fee that each of these countries need to pay. It is a limited time membership of 3 years or so. So, I mean, most of the details seem to be a bit vague about it. I do not see that ever, in its current form being able to parallel the United Nations. But what definitely is important, and I think that is one of the fundamental reasons why US's own allies are abandoning it in this initiative, is that more than a US hegemonic institution, it reads like President Trump's own hegemonic institution, or an alternative to the world order as he sees it. This today it's for Gaza, tomorrow it could be for yet another conflicted region, and then it puts a very wrong precedence, just like in this case, wherein the country or the state or the area or geography in concern or in question is not represented at all. And it's everyone else that's on the table that's making decisions for it. I mean, that really rolls back the whole idea of multilateralism and United Nations, no matter how defunct that organization might be. Yet it does represent something wherein each country has a certain voice, and those voices seem to have either not been represented on the Board of Peace. The other question that arises is what peace are these countries seeking for a third group or a third geography that they are intervening in? What knowledge do they have, and how would the power structure work within it? I mean, UN on the other hand does have a kind of a decided, controversial, not acceptable, badly done, but there is a power structure. In case of Board of Peace, it still remains elusive. I mean, what are the details of this and how is it going to function? Because there is not much detail, it is difficult to see how this could actually parallel United Nations. But just the fact that most of US allies are abandoning it does signal that there is a loss of trust at a global level with regard to US-based proposals and its leadership, and its hegemonic leadership, I would say, on such a proposed organization that it's trying to table.
And Dr. Chadha, how do you see the fact that now the peace in Gaza is mostly going to be decided by what the United States and its so-called allies in the Board of Peace want, and no other permanent member of the UN Security Council or the other superpowers in the world will really have a say on this? No voice from Global South in this Board of Peace.
Correct. I mean, it would have looked better had this Board of Peace actually had representation of a lot of other nations that matter, not just US allies. I mean, I would say for that matter, the upcoming middle powers in the country, there's Japan, there's Australia, there's India, there's South Korea. Those countries cannot be avoided when we're talking about world peace. They're very inherent to the global order. On the other hand, let's be realistic here. How much really have any other voices mattered to the extent that United States voice has mattered, specifically when it comes to these conflicts that have erupted over the years in the Middle East? So US has already maintained its hegemony. But this should then be seen as yet another project to maintain and propel that same hegemony. And probably that is the reason why we see a lot of partners, not just from within the Americas, but also Europe, abandoning the initiative. And most of the other countries that are currently represented seem to be the ones that probably, I mean, they might have a regional representation, but they don't seem to have a very balanced view with regard to how this Board of Peace could actually lead to peace in the region.
Right. Dr. Chadda, thanks then very much for joining me in this discussion. It was a pleasure to speak with you. Moving ahead now, viewers, we're going to cover news from South Asia. Now, the Indian rupee has fallen to a new